It's not about suffering. Some people may view suffering as something you have to endure every day of your life, but it's more of understanding and confronting it. You need to tap into the suffering daily because we all have scars that need addressing. Look at suffering almost like failure to succeed. You must confront and learn from both. All the answers to your challenges are embedded in these experiences. You don't have to live in suffering and pain constantly. Instead, you should learn to visit it, much like working out. People dislike working out, but you only need to engage in it for an hour a day. The same applies to suffering. Visit it for an hour a day. Face your past failures for an hour a day. The answers you seek lie within these experiences. Think of it as a live autopsy, just as a coroner examines a body to understand the cause of death. You should examine your own experiences while you're still alive. Don't wait until it's too late. Go into your mind, confront your suffering, and ask yourself why certain experiences were so painful. Understand why you have these fears and why you've shut down from the world. I guarantee you that the reasons you feel stuck or sorry for yourself are hidden within the scars of your suffering. They are in the nooks of your brain, within the pain. Visit these scars for at least an hour a day. Study them and you'll learn more about yourself, which will lead to growth. Don't just say you're afraid to jump off an airplane. Study that fear. That's why I became mentally powerful. I realized my weaknesses, and instead of avoiding them, I delved into them. I examined every fear, every insecurity, and understood their origin. I came from a place that had beaten me down, which is why I was afraid. It all made sense. I systematically revisited every fear and every situation in my mind, and that's how you confront and overcome them. Your present, future, and past are all important aspects of who you are. Unfortunately, many people overlook at least one of these because they don't feel at peace with themselves. They find it hard to follow through on their goals. To stick to your plans confidently, you need to understand all parts of yourself. Face your past as it shapes who you become today. Your past influences your feelings and your brain's responses to stimuli. In your earliest years, you learned that certain actions led to specific responses, which may have been positive or negative. Negative aspects of our past can hinder our progress. Some people romanticize the past, longing for a golden age that no longer exists, which can negatively impact both their future and present. It's crucial to acknowledge your past and accept that it cannot be changed. The past is a part of you, but it doesn't have to disable you. You can harness it to fuel your drive for the future. The power of the past is limited to what you give it, so use it wisely. Recognize and accept the trauma you've experienced, even though it may be difficult. You don't have to forget it or minimize its importance, but you should learn to view it in its entirety and give it the weight it deserves. This is true for both minor and major trauma. Regardless of the extent of your trauma, it's important to learn from it. Analyze your past to see how it has affected you. Once you recognize your trauma, you can explore how it has changed you. Consider what you might have done differently without the trauma and envision how it could influence your future. Your past will impact who you are, but it is not your only influence. Avoid keeping painful reminders that only make you feel worse about yourself. Don't keep old trinkets that bring you down. Forgive, but don't forget if you think it will help. Forgive those who have hurt you to release yourself from guilt and shame. This isn't about erasing the past, but about letting go of the pain and moving forward without bitterness. Remember that what you recall may not be entirely accurate. Memory is often fuzzy. People can forget details or even misremember events. Your memories are influenced by emotions and experiences, so they may be incomplete. Accept that your memories might be flawed and recognize that the past may not hold as much power as it seems. Although you can't change the past, you can make changes to find peace. Your past, no matter how terrible, has aspects you can be grateful for. Find something positive to be thankful for. It could be a small memory that helps you cope with more painful ones. Your past is irrelevant to who you are today. No matter what happened, you aren't defined by past trauma. You are who you present to the world now. You are free to be the person you want to become, although you can't erase your past. With time, self-reflection, and possibly therapy, it is possible not to be tied down by past events. Let go of the past and begin living in the future. After I joined the Air Force, I faced setbacks and realized I was afraid of water. I wanted to become an Air Force special operator, so I worked hard to achieve that. But when I got in the water, I discovered it wasn't enjoyable for me. I went from 175 pounds to 297 pounds in 3 years and found myself at home, overwhelmed by insecurities from my high school years. I felt like a failure making $1,000 a month spraying for cockroaches. One day I came home from work and watched a show on the Discovery Channel or History Channel about Navy SEAL Bud, Class 224 going through training. It was all water-based, and they were enduring Hell Week, freezing and quitting left and right. I was sitting at 297 pounds with a chocolate milkshake and a box of mini chocolate donuts, watching these amazing men endure the training. I felt a strong sense of inadequacy and knew I had to overcome my fears. Every day, a haunting voice in my head told me, "You're nothing. You're nothing," and I realized I had to start conquering myself. Personal standards are the guidelines that you use to guide your life. They can serve as a framework, much like your purpose, but they are often shaped by it. Your personal standards should be aligned with your purpose. This alignment encourages you to set standards that help you live according to your purpose. Our society has many standards for how we should interact with each other and live. Often, these standards are codified into laws to ensure accountability. Even when standards aren't written into laws, people will point them out if we behave contrary to societal guidelines. For instance, if an adult engages in bullying, peers will call them out and hold them accountable. However, living up to society's standards is not enough. You need to set your own standards. By doing so, you have the power to shape your life according to your choices. Personal standards are more than just guidelines. They are a powerful motivator. Feeling like you have to do something is more likely to drive you to action than feeling like you should do it. Limiting what we think is important sabotages our progress. Therefore, we need to change how we communicate and set standards to achieve our goals. To create personal standards, focus on the values you want to live by. This will help you set standards for your behavior, relationships, activities, and living environment, ensuring consistency in your actions and decisions. Your personal standards are essentially your personal rules for living. You can establish these standards by focusing on what you need to do to work towards your purpose. For example, if you want to be a better parent, you should be willing to adapt and change to meet your children's needs. Maintain your health and learn new parenting strategies. Always look for habits or behaviors that help you reach your purpose, even if their benefits are indirect. This approach is crucial for making your life as healthy and capable as possible to fulfill your purpose. This is the best way to motivate yourself to continue, even when it seems difficult or impossible. Focus on the areas in your life where you are most engaged. As you establish your personal standards, pay attention to your behavior and how it contributes to achieving your personal objectives. You should also consider the people around you and their contributions to your success. Next, focus on how you allocate your time and how it contributes to your personal success. It is difficult and not ideal to create a rigid guideline around your personal standards, as it can make you feel constrained and lead to resentment. Instead, aim to cultivate your personal standards in a more natural way. The best approach is to integrate and maintain your personal standards as you go about your daily life. While writing down your personal standards can serve as a reminder or inspiration, nurturing and maintaining them organically will yield a higher emotional return and help you keep them in mind. For example, if you're out walking with friends in the mall and think, "I really shouldn't be spending any money right now," that can trigger you to identify your personal standard and become more disciplined with your spending. You might decide that your personal standard is that, regardless of how much you like a product. If you don't have the money, you won't buy it. This will help you maintain your standards and achieve your goals. It is crucial to adhere to the standard you have set and to follow through consistently. Hold yourself accountable by being constantly aware of your standards and how they relate to your goals. Ensure you are accountable for failing to meet your standards, which will help you stay focused on why you set them. Your brain will learn that it is easier to maintain your standards than to deviate from them and face consequences later. For instance, if you buy the top you like, despite not having the budget for it, you might then need to cut back on junk food or snacks while grocery shopping. Limiting snacks and chips will provide a clear and unpleasant consequence for going against your standards, making it easier for your brain to recognize the importance of following them. If you fail to adhere to your standards, you will face the consequences. The easy route never pays well. The only route in life that pays well is the hard route. The struggle, the pain, the frustration, and the overcoming of those things. Not only do they pay, they fulfill you as well. As you go through the challenges of life, embrace whatever comes to you. Don't run from it. Step toward it. Don't try to duck it like most people do. Most people want it easy. Easy come, easy go. But when you face what you're going to deal with and handle the difficulties of it, making those hard decisions right now that you don't want to make, learning those things that you don't like to do but know you need to, this is one of the hoops you have to jump through. I'm saying to you, whatever you have to do, do it. Because if you don't, life is going to whoop you until you surrender. It's hard. Then do it hard. When things go wrong, they always seem to happen at once, compounding on top of each other. It's pretty easy sometimes to feel beaten when you're faced with all those issues and problems hitting you at the same time. But let me tell you, that doesn't mean give up. In fact, it means the opposite. It means it's time for you to fight harder, to dig in. It's time for you to go on the warpath. I want to reassure you that you can do it. I want to reassure you that you can make the decision. I want to reassure you that no matter what the night, the storm, or the difficulty, there isn't anybody here that can't figure it out. Find some things to do, step at a time. Yes, minute at a time. Yes, day at a time. Yes, week at a time. Yes. But there isn't anything you can't walk away from. There isn't any challenge you can't overcome. I want you to have that kind of belief in yourself. The first thing I believe you have to do to turn yourself around is really take control of your mind, or specifically, feed and strengthen the mind. The mind is an interesting place, isn't it? Fear can take us over. Uncertainty kind of unleashes all these thoughts that make us start to believe very often that things will always be bad, that we'll never be able to turn it around, or that we don't have the capability. It's just the nature of those inner voices that everybody feels at times. Now, maybe you're not feeling it right now, but I'm sure there are times that you have. So, to take control of your focus, what do you do? Well, I was told all of a sudden I had a tumor way back. When and while I was on my own trying to figure out what to do, I realized that somehow I had to take control of my mind. How to feed it. If I didn't feed my mind, I'd be living on the weeds that came around me. I mean, today, if all you do is pick up your phone, you've got all kinds of messages that are going to get your full attention. Or flip on Google, check out the news, or watch CNN or whatever it is you do. It's constantly coming at us. One of my first teachers, Jim Rohn, taught me something years ago. He said, "Tony, every day you've got to stand guard at the door of your mind." That, think about this, what if your worst enemy in the whole world came and dropped some sugar in your coffee? Said, "What do you mean? I have sweet coffee." Said, "That's right, coffee," he said. "That's right. What if your best friend, with the best intention in the world, dropped one drop of strychnine in your coffee?" I said, "I'd be dead," he said. "That's right. So remember, life is both sugar and strychnine, and you better stand guard at the door of your mind, because things feed in there, and you start to accept them. They start to become beliefs. You start to make up meanings that take over your life. Your focus must be on becoming a true alpha male first. On yourself, your life, your career, and who you want to become. You see, life isn't just about attaining the career of your dreams, buying your dream house, your dream car, and having your dream girl. It's about the man you become along the way. You aren't just creating those physical things in your life. You are creating and becoming a new man. Life isn't just about the journey and the path you will take. It is also about how you develop yourself. The problem has never been that you are not an alpha male. The problem has always been that you have negative beliefs that have hidden your true alpha male self. Most, if not all of us, have had experiences in life that caused our subconscious mind to create beliefs about ourselves that are no help whatsoever. But your subconscious mind, with all of its super intelligence at keeping you alive and running well, is notorious for holding on to negative beliefs. Your subconscious mind is not concerned if you follow your bliss or become a self-actualized person. All your subconscious mind is concerned about is your survival. It's very primal. Your subconscious mind will take fearful, scary, or bad events in your life and store them away permanently. Next, it will create a belief based upon those events. For example, if your father told you that you were no good when you were 8 years old, and then a teacher told you the same thing when you were 10, then your subconscious mind would develop the belief that you are not good enough. Furthermore, if you tried to convince yourself that you are worthy and good enough, your subconscious mind will dutifully bring up events from the past to prove you wrong. It has a perfect memory and stores everything. The point is that the only thing standing in the way between who you are now and your true alpha male self are those negative beliefs. Once those are cleared, then your true alpha male self can flourish. One of the misconceptions about being an alpha male is that he has to succeed at everything. That is not true. You don't have to be the best at everything. For example, if you are really bad at math and have absolutely no desire to learn it, and don't beat yourself up for being bad at it. Hire an accountant and let them do the math for you. In other words, just because you are learning to become a true alpha male, it doesn't mean that you have to conquer everything in life. Focus on what you love to do in life and not on what you don't like to do or are not good at. It's okay. We all have different talents. In reality, who you really are is who you are right now, but without all of the negative beliefs about yourself. Hence, you need a way to remove the negative beliefs that you have about yourself. When it comes down to it, becoming an alpha male is not as difficult as it may seem. Basically, you have been programmed to have negative thoughts which turn into negative beliefs. So what you need to do is reprogram your subconscious mind with the positive thoughts, feelings, and beliefs of being a true alpha male. The other point about being an alpha male is that scope really doesn't matter. For example, if you are a single dad, then you are the alpha male to your children. Being a great dad as an alpha male is extremely important to them and to society as a whole. There is no role as an alpha male that is not important. So whether you are the owner of a major corporation or a single dad, you are needed. Size and scope don't matter. The notion that you have to be the best in every group would set you up for failure. It's impossible. If you are the most powerful alpha male in every group or social setting, then there would only be one, and you would be president of the United States or China. The point is that it is really good to always strive to be the best alpha male you can be, but have realistic expectations. You don't need to be the top dog everywhere you go. The only point you need to know is that scope doesn't matter. Do your best to be the top dog if you want to, in every social situation, but let it go if you can't be. Being your true alpha male self, no matter what situation you find yourself in, and no matter who comes before you. Don't become a beta male in one situation and an alpha in another. Be your true self always. The actionable steps that are going to get you there have to do with improving who you are, not what you do. But we will include what to do in some situations so that you get an idea of what is normal for the new alpha male. One of the things that you must start to do is to visualize yourself as being a true alpha male. You have to feel it. You have to believe it. Understanding the law of attraction is one of the best ways to start to become a true alpha male. Between the acting of a dreadful thing and the first motion, all the interim is like a phantasma or a hideous dream. Between the moment when you are waiting to do something you don't want to do and the first motion, the whole time you are waiting to take that action is like a phantasma or a hideous dream, an evil specter, an apparition, a nightmare. The battle, the struggle, the hesitation takes place in that moment. The moment when we must step into the unknown. Treat yourself like you're responsible for helping someone, and that doesn't mean being good to yourself, being nice to yourself, or giving yourself an easy life. If you care for someone, you present them with an optimal challenge. First of all, assume that you're worth taking care of, and that it's your responsibility to do so, even if you don't like yourself very much. And lots of people don't, and they have their reasons. Abandon all that sins. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Remember what makes you different from the weak. The difference between the weak and the strong is that when the strong have nothing left, they fight, they fight, they fight. The weak quit, give up, give in. There's nothing weak about you, so I need you to fight your way through it. You and I both know that God's gift to us is our potential. And our gift back to him is what we do with that potential. Perhaps the greatest insult we can ever give to our Creator is to be a slacker, to have gifts and opportunities and potential and do nothing with them. I suggest today that you believe in yourself as much as God believes in you. He created you for greatness. Now that's how he created you. You determine how great you become. He has already given you the potential and the opportunity. Your response is either to seize the moment and the day and become all that you possibly can be, or to slacken the moment and let things come to you. I encourage you to take the potential you have been given as a gift and show thanks for that gift by giving your life your very best. The decisions you make actually matter. When the alarm goes off in the morning, you get up or hit the snooze and sleep more. When it's time to work out, you get it done or make excuses to skip it. When you're supposed to do the work you know you need to do. Do you do it or let it slide and regret it later? Every decision you make every single day matters. The easy choice makes life hard. A hard choice makes life easy. It's not going to be easy, and you have to be patient and put in the time. You talk to me about working hard for 3 months and not being recognized. That ain't nothing. It takes real commitment, and that every single day. It takes the conscious effort to be more valuable, to be better than the next person every single day. That is not easy. When you are at 1% and you keep pushing beyond half, you start to realize how much mental strength comes into play, how success in anything comes into your ability to expend effort when energy just isn't there. You have to make the right choices, manifest the right ideas, and lift them up. Don't tear them down. You are responsible for whatever comes out of your life at this moment. Yes, there will be many obstacles in your way. You have to learn to bob and weave, stick and move with a purpose. If you want things to get better, you have to get better. If you want things to change, you have to change, but you have to do it deliberately and consciously. You've got to constantly find a way to feed your mind with strategy. Knowledge is not power. Execution trumps knowledge every day of the week. Turn your shoulds into musts, because everybody has a list of shoulds, don't they? You want to create results, and those results come when you raise your standards. You've got to turn the shoulds into musts. Discomfort is your friend, because discomfort may move you to actually go for the life you deserve. Professionals don't need recognition for their work. Stop walking around thinking you deserve a pat on the back. Whatever it is you've been called to do, it has to become ingrained into the fibers of your being to the point that you couldn't possibly do anything else. And when it becomes who you are, you don't care about recognition. If someone tells you good job, you say, what are you talking of? This is just what I do. I will serve with honor. Honor is the adherence to what is right. I will serve with honor on and off the battlefield of life, meaning at work and at home. I will do what is right. I have honor whether I'm at home here The ability to control my emotions and actions, regardless of circumstances, sets me apart. Uncompromising integrity is my standard. Integrity is having honor when no one is looking. Here is one powerful way to change and grow. Cultivate your self-reliance. Take responsibility for your own life, for whatever happens to you. Know that you have consciously made the decisions affecting you, and that what is happening now is the direct result of what you did yesterday. Being self-reliant doesn't mean you can't work with or trust others. In fact, it can make you a more valuable teammate, partner, friend, and friends. Self-reliance means counting on yourself, trusting yourself, being responsible to yourself, and trusting your own instincts and conclusions developed from your study of experiences and philosophy. Take the credit due to you, learn from your mistakes, and pass that value on to others. Psychologists give an example of being self-reliant. They say you're responsible for getting caught in the rain. By deciding not to carry an umbrella every day, you make the choice to endure occasional drenching. Translation: by not being prepared, you choose to face some of life's unpleasant circumstances. Rain, failures, economic losses, relationship losses, professional losses, or personal losses. By being prepared, you increase your chances of success and seize opportunities when they come your way. Some people tend to blame others for their mistakes and failures. They'll say, "It's not my fault. The report isn't done because so-and-so didn't do their part." Of course, it's your fault too. It's your responsibility to ensure everyone you delegated work to does their part. You can't control what others do, but it's in your own enlightened self-interest to stay on top of things, especially if they affect your future. Do you think your boss cares that John didn't do his part? He sees only the bottom line. The report isn't done. Be responsible for the things that affect you. Ensure you're more responsible by checking in with your team. If John consistently doesn't handle his part, replace him. If he isn't doing his share, find someone who will, or it will negatively affect you. You can't wake up the morning the project is due hoping John has done his part. You have to be responsible because it affects your career too. My approach for a better future early in my career was to go through the day with my fingers crossed. I used to say, "I sure hope things will change for the better." Then I realized things won't change unless I do. It's the same for you. You can't put it on someone else or hope someone else will change it for you. You need to take responsibility. You can't change the circumstances or the seasons or the wind, but you can change your reading habits, whether you go for skills, burn the midnight oil, turn yourself around, and multiply your value by 2, 3, 5, or 10. You have control over that. You don't have control over the constellations, but you do have control over whether you go to school, take adult classes, and learn new skills. If you don't, that's your fault. You've got to take personal responsibility and be self-reliant. How do you know when you're successful? Do you have to be a millionaire? No. All we ask is that you earn all you possibly can. If you earn $10,000 a year, and that's the best you can do, that's enough. God and everything else will see to it that you're okay. The key is to do the best you can. If it's $10,000 a year, wonderful. If it's $100,000 a year, wonderful. If it's $1 million a year, wonderful. It doesn't matter whether you earn $110,000 a year or $1 million a year, as long as you've done the best you can. The essence of life is growth. It is doing the best you possibly can. Here's what's interesting. Humans are the only life form that will do less than they possibly can. Humans are the only life form that will settle for less. All other life forms, except human beings, strive to their maximum capacity. How tall will a tree grow? As tall as it possibly can. You've never heard of a tree growing halfway. Trees send their roots down as deep as possible, stretch their limbs up as high as possible, and produce every leaf and fruit possible. Similarly, you have never heard of a human growing halfway physically. We keep growing until we're done. It's genetically coded. That's a part of life we can't control. It's the growth of our minds that we can control, but we tend to neglect this. All life forms inherently strive toward their maximum potential, except human beings. Why wouldn't we strive to become all we can be, to fulfill our potential? Because we have been given the dignity of choice, which makes us different from alligators, trees, and birds. The dignity of choice makes us different from all other life forms. And here's the choice: to become part of what we could be, get by, or to become all that we can be. My best advice is to choose the all. Earn all you can, make all the friends you can, read as many books as you can, develop as many skills as you can, see and do as much as possible, make as much fortune as possible, and give as much of it away as possible. Strive for the maximum. Most people go so far in life, then they pause. They stop dead in their tracks. Why? Because they take some hits. When you have a goal and dream, think it's not strange that you face the fiery furnaces of this world. You will have tribulations. Things are going to happen to you. Life tries to convince us that we're average. There's nothing special about us. We have too many obstacles. We'll never accomplish our dreams. We have made too many mistakes. We'll never leave our mark. We don't realize who we are. Maybe you have doubt in your life. Maybe you don't know for sure what's going to happen in the future, and it scares you. Maybe you're worried about what people think of you, what people say about you. Just that fear paralyzes you. And I just want to ask you today, do you think you have hope? Somebody said that life is like an onion. You have to peel it one layer at a time, and sometimes you cry. Life's going to happen to you. When you have a dream, you're going to get slapped around, and don't take it personally. Don't ask, why did this have to happen to me? Why not you? Who would you suggest? You want to give us some names, some email addresses, and don't tell everybody. 80% don't care, and 20% are glad it's you. I want to ask you, what are you going to believe? Are you going to believe in yourself? Are you going to believe everybody else's judgment on you? Are you going to believe people when they say that you are a failure? No one really likes you. No one really cares about you. It's called life. Suck it up and move on. Get over it. Then turn it on itself and ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Don't be afraid of that. I've got to be more afraid of what I'm going to miss out on, missing out on my mission, missing out on who I am supposed to be. In other words, if you're not going to get rid of fear, then use fear. Use fear or it uses you. It's that simple. You are not like everybody else. You can walk outside and find pigeons, but if you're looking for eagles, it's going to take you a minute. You are different. It's lonely at the top. How many of you know it's lonely at the top? It's lonely at the top. But you eat better. And it's not the end until you've given up. Just the fact that you're here should persuade you that you have another chance to get back up. There's still hope. I'm not here today to tell you that I understand your pain. I don't know how it feels to be abused. I don't know how it feels to feel fat and have an eating disorder. I don't know how it feels to have a broken home. I don't know how it feels, but I know how it feels to have a broken heart, and I know how it feels to be alone. I want you to know that I found my strength in Jesus Christ, and you're going to find your strength in whatever you find it in. I just want you to know that it's not the end. It matters how you're going to finish. Are you going to finish strong? You will find that strength to get back up. Your present or past results have absolutely nothing to do with what's going to happen from this point forward. Now that was the point that Rice Stanford drilled into my head. You see, I kept thinking, well, gee, I'm such a mess up. You know, I've done everything wrong up till now. I'm 26, I'm broke and not happy. Everything was wrong. I said, Bob, that's all in the past. He said, every moment is a new moment. We shouldn't condemn ourselves. And he said, what you were yesterday, you paid for. What you are today, you decide. That's exactly what your word's saying. This power in no way is limited by precedent. Even in a creative state, we sometimes don't understand that. You know why airplanes right up to today almost have wings on them? Because birds have wings. Birds fly. They have wings. You're going to get a plane to fly. You've got to put wings on it. No. We've got planes flying without wings today. You know why? Never did need wings. But you see, the thinking was to a degree limited by precedent. Birds fly with wings. Planes have to have wings. Planes do not have to have wings. You're creative. If you can visualize it, you can do it. It doesn't matter what it is. That's what Hill said. Anything the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. There is no more effective way of operating in the world than to conceptualize the highest good that you can and then strive to attain it. There is no more practical pathway to the kind of success that you could have if you actually knew what success was. The world shifts itself around your aim because you're a creature that has an aim. You have to have an aim in order to do something. You're an aiming creature. You look at a point and you move towards it. It's built right into you, and so you have an aim. Well, let's say your aim is the highest possible aim. Well then, so that sets up the world around you. It organizes all of your perceptions. It organizes what you see and don't see it. It organizes your emotions and your motivation. So you organize yourself around that aim. And then what happens is the day manifests itself as a set of challenges and problems. And if you solve them properly, then you stay on the pathway towards that aim. And you can concentrate on the day. And so that way you get to have your cake and eat it too, because you can point into the distance, the far distance, and you can live in the day. And it seems to me that that makes every moment of the day supercharged with meaning. Because if everything that you are doing every day is related to the highest possible aim that you can conceptualize, well, that's the very definition of the meaning that would sustain you in your life. I believe that those rules can be applied to almost anyone and everyone. If you want to excel in whatever you do, those rules are for you. It's that simple. So, my first rule is find your vision and follow it. You see, I think it's the most important thing that we have a very clear vision of where we go, a goal. Where do we go? Because you can have the best ship in the world. You can have the best cruise liner. But if the captain does not know where to go, that ship would drift around the world and out there in the sea and will never end up anywhere. And this is exactly the way it is in real life. If you don't have a goal, if you don't have a vision, you just drift around. You're not going to be happy. The simple truth is, if you don't have a vision, if you don't have a goal, if you don't see your future laid out in front of you, you're just floating around without a purpose. And I think that the numbers speak for themselves. This is why so many people around the world are unhappy with their jobs. I mean, in America, 74% of the people hate their job and would like to change jobs. So think about that. That means that only a quarter of the Americans love their life's work. I mean, that is a very depressing statistic. I always smiled when I worked. No matter how hard I worked, I always had a great time. No matter what I did, it didn't matter if it was in bodybuilding, or if it was in the movies, or if it was as governor. I remember in the pumping iron days, people asked me in the gym all the time, "Why are you smiling all the time? Why are you so happy? You have to lift 50 tons of weight. You have to train 5 hours a day." I mean, I look at the other bodybuilders' faces and lifters' faces, and they look kind of depressing. They look sour. They're miserable that they have to lift weights. You don't look miserable. You look happy. And I tell them always, I say, I smile, because I know exactly that every rep that I do, that every set that I do, every weight that I lift, I get one step closer to turning that vision of mine into reality and becoming Mr. Universe. I could not wait to lift another 500 pounds in the squats. I could not wait to do another 1,000 sit-ups. I could not wait to do more bench press and more curls until I couldn't move my arms anymore, because I knew that every rep got me closer to standing on that stage as a champion. As a matter of fact, when I lifted weights, I didn't really feel like I was lifting weights. I felt like I was lifting a trophy over my head each time I lifted, and to have all those bodybuilders around me and thousands of people screaming. And I tell you, this vision didn't just help me in bodybuilding. It helped me with everything. Like I said, focus is the most important quality for success. If you can focus, you can do anything. If you can't focus, you must always work for someone else who will make you focus. Now, wonderfully enough, focusing is like learning how to ride a bicycle or type with a keyboard. It's a learnable skill. You can learn to focus by practicing focus until it becomes automatic. One of the most valuable exercises you can engage in when setting goals is to ask yourself, what is my limiting step? What is the one factor that determines the speed at which I achieve my goal, or whether I achieve it at all? Throughout my personal development, your ability to identify your limiting step is one of the best demonstrations of your intelligence, and a step toward building self-confidence, and a step toward building self-confidence, and a step toward building self-confidence. Your capacity to eliminate this limiting step is one of the best demonstrations of your overall competence in achieving anything you want. In studying everything that has been written or said about personal development and success, the conclusion I came to was that your level of self-confidence is probably the critical factor in everything you accomplish. When you have enough self-confidence, you will try almost anything. Because success is largely a matter of averages or probabilities, the more things you try, more likely it is that you will achieve greatly. The same is true for you. By setting goals, trying more things, engaging in more activities, and exploring more opportunities, your probabilities of success increase dramatically. The only real limiting step that you might have is your level of self-confidence. When you reach the point at which you believe in yourself absolutely, the barriers that exist in your external world will not stop you. If you want to be a better leader, understand and then practice these three as number 1, inspiration. The job of a leader really is to inspire other people. If you look at Steve Jobs, you look at Elon Musk, you look at Nelson Mandela, you look at Sergey Brin of Google, you look at a Rembrandt or Picasso. These people were incredibly inspired. They were not only incredibly inspired, they were inspirational to other people. I mean, there's that incredible story of Steve Jobs, and a lot of people say Steve Jobs wasn't a nice person. And yet, if you were to poll the former employees of Apple, they would say, my years at Apple working with Steve Jobs were the single best years of my entire career. And you say, oh, well, no. Why? And they say, because he was inspirational. I mean, when Steve Jobs was a young man, or a young kid, his father said, go out and paint the fence outside of their house. And Steve Jobs said, no problem. He went out and he started painting the outside of the fence. A few hours later, his father comes out and says, Steve, did you paint the fence? Steve says, I did. Dad, Steve Jobs' father inspects the fence. And he says, Steve, you did a great job painting the outside of the fence, but you didn't paint the inside of the fence. And Steve Jobs looked up at his father and said, but Dad, no one's going to see the inside of the fence. And his father looked at him and said, but son, we will. Now, it's many decades later, and Steve Jobs is running Apple, and they're ready to launch or ready to develop, rather, the first Apple Macintosh. And he looked at his design team and he said, here's your deliverable. I want the outside of the computer to look so simple and so elegant, like a piece of art. But here's the real mission. Make the inside so beautiful that it'll bring tears to our eyes. And his design team looked at him and said, but Steve, no one's going to see the inside of the Apple Macintosh. And Steve Jobs looked at his team and said, but we will. Why? That's inspiration. Let's take a few minutes to talk about the importance of knowing yourself enough to be your best leader. When you thought you were doing what you were supposed to do and were misinformed. The times you thought you had it all laid out and it just didn't work. The times when you burned the midnight oil day after day and it didn't seem to help. It didn't seem to change the end result. I'd like to ask you to take a look at any place you've had a limitation. Ask yourself, When did I decide to accept that limitation? The bottom line is no one's coming. No one's coming to push you. No one's coming to tell you to turn the TV off. No one's coming to tell you to get out the door and exercise. Nobody's coming to tell you to apply for that job that you've always dreamt of beside. Nobody's coming to write the business plan for you. It's up to you. And because you're only ever going to do the things that you feel like doing right now, or that feel good right now. Unless you understand that you've got to parent yourself, you've got to push yourself. These are the times that you have to rely on your own self-encouragement. Take responsibility for the missed opportunity or the misrepresentation. Learn from the fact that even though your client wanted it one way and you presented it the right way, it didn't work. Be prepared for the letdowns that happen every so often. Know that this lost opportunity just set you up better for the next one. Realize that you can make the necessary alterations next time. Make the changes that will make the difference. Study your mistakes and learn from them. Don't dwell on the mistakes. Acknowledge them, learn from them, and encourage yourself that you're smarter than your bank account leads you to believe. It all comes down to the inner game, my friends. Changing your life is a change in the inner game. The outside world you can't control, but you have absolute control over this lot. If you learn the dynamics of what shapes you, and identity is one of those simple, clear, fundamental basics, then if you start to shift it, everything else will shift in your life as well. Some people, by the way, have to have more than enough money to do what they want, when they want, where they want, with whomever they want, contribute the way they want. That's their must. They find a way. I know that sounds overly simplistic, but it's true. Remind yourself that you're bound to get better. Don't get down yourself. Don't beat yourself up. It's the next opportunity that matters, not the last one. The last one matters only in that you must learn from your mistakes. But the next one gives you the opportunity to show that you have learned from your mistakes. You can do it better next time. You just have to practice. Practice, practice, keep trying. Keep trying until what? Till you've got it down. If you figured out what went wrong last time, then you know how to make it right next. If you figured out what it was in your presentation that didn't work, don't say that next time. If you figured out that the reason you didn't close the deal this time was because you didn't have all the facts and figures in place, have all the facts and figures in place next time. Don't beat yourself up for messing up. Pat yourself on the back for figuring it out. You need to encourage yourself. You need to pump yourself up. You need to be your own cheerleader. Why? Because you can't wait and hope that someone else will come along and cheer you up, make you feel better, or tell you that you'll do better next time. You have to rely on yourself. Everybody wants to succeed so fast because they want to prove something to somebody else. When you want to give up, just keep going. When your luck is done, just keep going. Don't stop, just keep going. Let's suppose that there's a vast, hugely powerful force that nobody can withstand. This immense force is always active and in furious motion. It never rests. It's like a slowly flowing river and eventually carve the Grand Canyon out of solid rock. But that comparison doesn't really do it justice. The force I'm talking about is much more formidable than any river, ocean, glacier, or any other natural phenomenon. Now, in trying to achieve your life's goals, would you prefer to fight against this great force? Would you want to struggle against this mighty power that has all the odds overwhelmingly in its favor? Or would you rather enlist this great power in your cause and make the inevitable work for you instead of against you? Take your time before answering. Think it over answering. Think it over. By the way, time is that great power I'm talking about. Time is the mightiest force in the world, or even in the universe. Of course, the answer to the question I posed is very obvious. Why would you ever choose to fight time when you could have time on your side? Who wouldn't want to harness the great river of time that flows through all of life? Why wouldn't you want to use the power of time? To generate power of time, to generate power in every area of your existence. to turn the turbines of your hopes and dreams, to charge your every aspiration with lightning bolts of electricity. With lightning bolts of electricity. Well, there's only one way to make time work for you, not against you, and that's with patience. It's kind of the way I think about getting into shape. You've heard for 20 years that it's exercising and eating right. You just wish it was a pill. It won't be instantaneous. I know we want that, but it's not. Greatness takes time. That impulsive stuff will last when you build something with a foundation of choices and character. You see, character is everything in life. Your attitudes will really determine your altitude. Bouncing back number 1 is refusing to listen to the negative chatter in my own head. Creating something from absolutely nothing. I didn't ask permission, I gave notice. At some point, I had to stop asking. Can I be great? Can I be brilliant? Can I be okay and still be accepted? I just stopped asking permission and gave notice unapologetically. Not in a braggadocious way, not in a way that shrunk anyone else, but in a way that said, I've only got one life, and I'm going to ride this one till the wheels fall off. And I'm telling you that I think you need to embrace desperation again in your life. Do you want it so bad that you're desperate for it? Let me see. In a fight, you show me 2 people. This is why it's so hard to repeat as a champion in the fighting game. You show me someone who's up and coming, who's hungry for that title, who's never had it before, who can taste it, who knows if they win that belt, their whole life's going to change. They're going to be champion of the world. All the endorsements, all the money, all their family life, all their parents' lives are going to change. You show me somebody chasing that, hungry for it, against someone who's just trying to hold on to a title. That's why most of the time, the challenger beats the champ. It's hard to repeat as a champion because the hunger goes down just a little bit. The greatest athletes, Phobes, the Bradys, the Jordans of sports, have a way of feeding their hunger all the time and increasing it. What separates them isn't just their work ethic, it isn't just their talent, although those things matter. It isn't just that they practice more. What separates them is they're just hungrier. They somehow find a way, as they climb up the ranks and win championships, to get even hungrier for more. Where 99% of the athletes lose just a little bit of their edge once they get that first championship, that first pro contract, first big amount of money, first world championship, they just lose their hunger a little bit. And then there's the elite. They get hungrier. It feeds the beasts. What does it mean for you to advance economically if you lose your soul? What does it mean for you to end up running the business if you lose your soul? What does it mean to have a bigger house if you lose your soul? I want you to value it, not just what you're going to get, not just what you're going to get. So many people think leadership's title or position, and you may be a leader that has a title or position. But many people who have great influence really don't have that. If you had spent 1 hour a day, every day on one subject for 5 years, you could become an expert on that subject. And I stopped asking the question, how long will it take? And I started asking the question, how far can I go? And everything changed that day. I realized that you can set goals and have 5-year goals, whatever. But I changed from a goal mindset to a growth mindset. And the fact that if I would be intentional in the areas of growth that would have the return and would fit who I was, then I could really be successful and help a lot of people. Everybody wants to come up with excuses on this, I wasn't born that way. I'm stuck, I wasn't born here, this. Can't be lost in life when you're this young. I'm a female. I'm an immigrant. I'm a minority. I'm transgender. Excuses are reality. The problem is nobody cares. Your lack of patience is killing you. So many of us choose our path out of fear, disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect. So we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying, on the proof that you can ask the universe for it. Effort makes the difference. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Oh Lord, or else. And I told you before the thing I love about effort. There are other things. Skills, right. You may have to go get a degree for that. There are some skills you gotta go get a degree. It could take you 4 years, 8 years, 12 years. I heard Ed Milet once say you're one decision away from a totally different life, and I agree with him. But I want to ask you this, what is that one decision? And the answer is to take complete and total responsibility for everything in your life. You asked for my hustle, I gave you my heart because it came with so much more. It's the ultimate sacrifice. Greatness has a cost. It reschedules your plans for you. It puts your family and friends on hold. It makes you feel misunderstood and will put you in some deep, dark holes. Greatness demands everything from you. Your minds, your body, your spirit, and your soul. So what do you do when you shoot 4 airballs in a playoff game? What do you do? Do you weep? Are you disappointed? Do you let down all of your teammates and fans? Do you ask for sympathy? Do you ask, why me? When they blast the coach for keeping you in the game? Do you blame yourself when they've drawn their own conclusions about how your career is going to end? Do you wish you could go back in time and make a different decision? Would you get off the plane and go straight to Palisades and hide? Get the janitor to open up the gym and lock yourself in there until the sun comes up? You'd go shoot, you'd drill, and you'd relive that moment and change the outcome over and over and over. When you start anything, when you start out on a path to anywhere, whether it be to learn something new, to create a business, or to become more in shape, the first step, the first day, the first minute, you're excited. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna kick ass, right? And then the next day comes and you're all like, man, this is a little tougher. And then you take another step and another step. Maybe you get to Thursday or Friday and you're like, this is pretty hard, man. And then what happens is the enthusiasm from the beginning of the process starts to fade out. You have a lot to offer. The fact that you're still here means that your business is not through yet. People don't do what they know in life, but what they do is they operate within the context of the vision they have of themselves. No matter how big your dream is, take small, tiny steps ahead. You must change what's possible for you. You and only you are the subject that impacts the burning desire in your imagination. I'm talking about concrete commitment. I'm talking about the commitment that says, I am going to stay true to what I said I would do long after the mood I set it in has left. Because I think we all know in this room, character is not something that we inherit. Character is something we have to wake up every single day. We gotta fight and we gotta build it. Never, ever, ever give up. You can't let them get you down. You can't let the critics and the naysayers get in the way of your dreams. So you've got to ask yourself, what's your why? What motivates you? What pushes you? What drives you? And if that thing is eternal, if nobody has to call you, if nobody has to surprise you, if nobody has to reward you, if you are self-motivated and self-regulated, you can have it. You can be it. You can do it. It's necessary you take responsibility for it, that you make it happen, that you don't give up, that you don't take any objection, disappointment, or defeats personally, that you keep on keeping on, that you don't decide that you can't make it because you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You cannot give up because it ain't what you see. You cannot give up. When you get to the point where enough is enough, when you get to the point where it hurts real bad, when you get to the point you can't take it no more, when you get to that point, doors start opening, opportunities start happening. But what you cannot do is you cannot quit doing the process. The earlier you get in the game and get on track, the better life you're gonna have. It's you. You gotta make that happen. The first step, before anybody else in the world believes it, is you have to believe it. There's no reason to have a plan B, because it distracts from plan A. I want to represent an idea. I want to represent possibilities. I want to represent the idea that you really can make what you want. One of my favorite books is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and I just believe that I can create whatever I want to create. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your servant. Pain is telling you that there's a problem here and you need to get it fixed. You need to drag it out of the dark and you need to deal with this. And you have to decide, enough is enough. It's time for a new direction. It's time to say, that's it. Turn to somebody and say, that's it. Passivity is a spirit and it'll kill you. It'll kill your relationships. It'll kill your home. It'll kill your marriage. If we just sit back and do nothing, it'll kill you. There's a redemptive power that making the choice have. Rather than feeling like you're at effect to all the things that are happening, make a choice. Decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide. And then from that point, the universe is going to get out of your way. Most people dabble in a million things. They master nothing, and they wonder why they're unfulfilled. In people's lives, there's maybe a half dozen, 7, 8 categories that really matter most. People, they major in minor things. They focus on stuff that doesn't matter. They know more about the celebrity going in and out of rehab than they do about their own personal development. So if I have no other message to offer your viewers, let me give it to them right now. I'll tell you what I believe. I believe our lives are controlled by one force. Your brain is divided into 2 halves. Each half of your brain has millions of factory workers. On each side, at the forefront of each one of those factories, is a form of positive and a form of negative. You're the boss of the factory. You wake up in the morning and you say, man, I don't feel myself today. Forming negative hears that and says, hey, the boss just woke up and said he's having a bad day today. Let's get to work. And your day starts tumbling into what you ordered. You could wake up in the morning and say, you know what, today is going to be a great day. Thank you, Lord, for waking me up this morning. Forming positive turns around and says, Steve's having a great day today. Has expecting some wonderful things to happen. Let's get it going. And they start manufacturing thought was. You have got to change the way you think. It is the whole determining factor of where you go in life. This is the truth. So many of us say that we want to change, but many of us are unwilling to pay the price to change. And really, all change comes from not focusing on what you can't control. It comes from focusing on what you can control. All change has a price tag attached to it. Today, each and every one of us has to count the cost. Do we actually want to change? Are we willing to pay the price for change? Well, winter comes after fall. Night comes after day. Difficulty follows opportunity. Recession always comes after expansion. It's in the rhythm of life for the last 6,000 years of recorded history. So the winters are going to come, the winter of sickness, the winter of disappointment, the winter of devastation, social winters, economic winters, personal winters, when your heart is smashed into 1,000 pieces and the nights are unusually long. It's simply called wintertime, but the winters are inevitable. So it has been for the last 6,500 years of recorded history. You say, well, Mr. Rohn, what can I do about the winters of life? The most important decision you can make, above any on the face of the earth, is deciding that no matter what happens in your life, no matter what happens, you're going to live in a beautiful state. Life is short. We don't know how short it's going to be, but if you only had a week to live, I bet you wouldn't allow yourself to suffer over a little crap that makes you crazy normally. I think you would probably spend time with those you love. You would do what you love. You'd take on a sunset, you'd smell the air. You would take in everything in those final moments that you possibly could. So my thing is, why wait? Why wait? Why not just decide? And if I start to suffer, I know the solution because suffering is me obsessing about me. I might say it's not me. I'm worried about my kids because they're not doing well. No, you're worried that you haven't done enough for your kids. It's about you still, right? Yes. You know you're worried about what was done, or what you should have done, or what shouldn't have been done. And you can end that in an instant by becoming aware of it and saying, I have made the most important decision of all. I'm going to live in a beautiful state. You know, there are many influences on this. One is the influence of the past. Some people are always pulled back by the past. Some people are always pulled aside by distraction. But here's what's powerful: if you have a list of high purpose in your life, it pulls you toward the future. And the more powerful the purpose is, the stronger it pulls. And here's the other great advantage: if you have purpose for the future, it pulls you through all kinds of challenges and all kinds of difficulty. If you don't have these strong purposes for the future, it's easy to get swallowed by a bad day. It's easy to be almost annihilated by a poor month. And it's easy sometimes to almost disappear beneath the waves of a year that goes backwards if you don't have something to pull you beyond that year. So if you want something to pull you through all kinds of challenges, all kinds of difficulties, and things that come at you, you got to have something out there beyond today, beyond next week, beyond next month, beyond this year. Pulls you into the future. And the clearer it is, the stronger it pulls. The bolder, the more dynamic it is, the more it affects your life, your spirit, your heart, your soul. It also creates imagination. It gets your mind working on how to achieve that purpose. And if your mind will work, and if your heart works, and if your spirit works, and if you have good input like good ideas, I'm telling you, there isn't anything you can't accomplish until you're willing to pledge to make your dream become a reality. See, so many people talk and talk and talk, but very few walk and walk and walk, and turn their walk into a jog. And they're jogging through a sprint, which is okay. But the problem is they resent those of us who made the choice to put ourselves in a position to hoist the banner. They resent those of us who made the choice to keep pushing even when our skin got a little moist, because we understood that that moisture, aka sweat, would eventually build and build. And all of that sweat equity would allow us to never sweat or worry about struggle. That sweat equity would allow us to never sweat, worry, or stress, because winners like us chose to bury all of our fears. Winners like us chose to bury all of our doubts, all of our indiscretions, and we took all of our life lessons and refurbished, repackaged, recreated, and reused all of the pain, all of the hurts, all of the failure, all of the setback, and turn them into get-backs. And that's why we continuously get back up, and we'll always get back up when life pops up and pops us in the mouth. We may drop, and we may go down, but it's never for the counts. You can bet your bottom dollar that you can count on winners like us to always come through in the clutch. The separation of talent and skill is one of the greatest misunderstood concepts for people who are trying to excel, who have dreams and want to do things. Talent you have naturally. Skill is only developed by hours and hours and hours of beating on your craft. As I said, 70% of the time people live in stress, and living in stress is living in survival. We've all been in that place where we're depressed and down. Now, what's interesting is how we treat that. What do we do with that? Noéo, saviez-vous, I'm that to say to you. Well, what most people do is they take a drug, or if they are really feeling down in life, they'll drink some alcohol or maybe smoke a cigarette. The definition of stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of balance, out of homeostasis. The stress response is what the body innately does to return itself back to order. But the truth is, if you look at your life and you write down all the emotions you experienced in a week, both good and bad, each of those emotions is tied to a certain way of using your body. If you keep using your body that way over and over again, you'll keep feeling that way. There's one thing that if you did every single day, no joke, it would make an extraordinary difference in whatever mental health issue you're struggling with, and that is exercise. The reason you have to exercise every day is because what we know about human beings is that when you physically move, your physiology changes, and that changes your brain. You've got to detach from the problems or the stress you're experiencing so you can get perspective on them. Now, there's a couple of different types of stress. If it's something you can control that's causing you stress, why aren't you getting control of it generally? It's a lack of discipline. So you have to have the discipline to grab control and make it happen. When I say you need discipline for that, it means these stresses you're avoiding aren't going to go away if you avoid them. So take the discipline to face the stressful situation, Get ahead of it and don't be afraid of it. Now, there's also stress caused by things you cannot control. If you remember talking earlier about artillery and how horrible that was, what made it so horrible was that there's no control over it. So, if you can't control something, you have to at least embrace what you can. I'm not saying you're going to embrace artillery shelling, but there's only so much you can do. You cannot completely eliminate it, but you can't control it. So, why are you going to worry about it? Why are you going to stress about it? 1. Getting your heart rate up. Getting outside, breathing, feeling connected. Getting out of your house, which may make you feel depressed and trapped. Doing that every day, that physical push. You don't have to run. You don't have to go to aerobics class. Get outside with your dog in the woods. Walk with a good friend for 2 or 3 miles. Doing that every single day not only moves your body, which changes your mind, but it also gets you out of your physical environment, which is one of the things that people with depression tend to have a hard time doing. It also creates a bit of momentum and a bit of a routine in your life. Take on just that single thing. Get outside and exercise every single day as if your life depends on it, because you know what? It does. Your brain needs it. Your body needs it. Your mental health needs it. Meditation is fantastic. Meditation is the biggest gift that I can give anyone, and I would say more than anything. It is the reason for whatever success I've had, because it allows one back to use their mind properly. There are different parts of your brain that want different things. In the simplest sense, there is the logical part of the brain that you're conscious of, called the conscious, and you think you're being logical and making those decisions. Then there's the subliminal, the limbic system part of the brain, which is emotional and not as conscious to you, but has more influence on you than the logical one. They're not aligned. When you're experiencing pain or, let's say, ego, there are 2 main things, an ego barrier and a blind spot barrier. If you can get past your ego barrier and your blind spot barrier, you can accomplish anything. You don't have to do everything yourself. You can learn from others and approach things in the best possible way. Realize that we are all struggling with ourselves. Meditation helps to align the logical and subliminal parts of your mind. Intuition, imagination, and the things we love come from the subliminal. When they come up, you can look at them with your logical mind and align them. Ang aerofonses e masaksail, posita, andas, eingeset, sacre, et potesiconta. This alignment between the subliminal and the logical, and with other people, allows for better decision-making. Don't be overly opinionated, because just because you have an opinion doesn't mean it's true. As I said, 70% of the time people live in stress, and living in stress is living in survival. The definition of stress is when your brain and body are knocked out of balance, out of homeostasis. The stress response is what the body innately does to return itself to order. If you turn on the stress response and can't turn it off, you're headed for disease, because no organism in nature can live in emergency mode for an extended period of time. It's a scientific fact that the hormones of stress downregulate genes and create disease long-term. Because of the size of the neocortex, we can turn on the stress response just by thought alone. As we think about our problems and turn on those chemicals, our thoughts could make us sick. So, if it's possible that our thoughts could make us sick, is it possible that our thoughts could make us well? The answer is absolutely yes. So then, what are the emotions that are connected to survival? Let's name them: anger, aggression, hostility, hatred, competition, fear, anxiety, worry, pain, suffering, guilt, shame, unworthiness, envy, jealousy. Those are all created by the hormones of stress, and psychology calls them normal human states of consciousness. I call those altered states of consciousness. We tend to remember those traumatic events more because in survival, you better be ready if it happens again. When the survival gene is switched on, you could have 10 really great things happen in your day, and just one bad thing happens, and you cannot take your attention off that bad thing because the survival gene is switched on. Many years ago, after the DNA helix was discovered by Watson and Crick, they said the blueprints of life, and that all diseases are created from genes. It turns out less than 5%, more like 1% of people on the planet are born with a genetic condition like type 1 diabetes, Tay-Sachs disease, or sickle cell anemia. The other 95 to 99% are created by lifestyle and choices. You can take two identical twins with the exact same genome. One dies at 51, the other dies at 85. Same gene, different environment. So all of a sudden, they said, we lied. That was wrong. It's not genes that create disease. It's the environment that signals the gene that creates disease. But that's not the whole truth, because you could have two people working side by side in the same factory. One gets cancer after being exposed to a carcinogen for 25 years, both working for 25 years, and the other one has no cancer at all. So there must be some internal order that would cause one person to not get it while another one does. If the environment signals the gene, and it does, and the end product of an experience in the environment is called an emotion, can you signal the gene ahead of the environment by embracing an elevated emotion? We've done the research on this. We've measured 7,500 different gene expressions in a group of people who came to an advanced event for 4 days. We had them doing a seated meditation, a walking meditation, a lying down meditation, a standing meditation. At the end of 4 days, just 4 days, the common 8 genes that were upregulated were 2 genes to suppress cancer cells and tumor growth, 2 genes for neurogenesis, the growth of new neurons in response to novel experiences in learning, the gene that signals stem cells to go to damaged areas and repair them, and the gene for oxidative stress. We started seeing all these genes that are very, very healthy and cause the body to flourish. Imagine if people were doing that for 3 months. We also measured telomeres, the little shoestrings on the end of DNA that tell us our biological age. We asked people to do the work. Meditation, 5 out of 7 days for 60 days, measured their telomeres that determined their biological age. 60 days later, 74% of the people lengthened their telomeres. 30% showed significant change, and 20% showed a very remarkable change. That means they got a little bit of their life back. If it lengthened by 10%, they got 10% of their life back. Wherever I was I was thinking about something else. Anxiety comes because we allow our awareness to drift away from the present moment and go into the future or into the past in an uncontrolled way. The past and the future are not bad things as long as we enter them with the aim to learn from them. But if we just allow our awareness to travel into the past and into the future all the time, it creates anxiety. We do that because we're afraid. Anxiety comes out of a sense of fear. We allow our awareness to go into the future, create a situation that hasn't happened, bring it back into the present, and start living as if it has already happened. You keep repeating the process over and over again, and you build anxiety. I'm gonna get sick. I'm gonna get sick. You think about the future. What if I get sick? Then what happens? Oh my God. I'm gonna get sick? You bring that awareness back into the present and start worrying about it. 5 minutes later, you let your awareness go into the future and think, I'm not gonna get sick. I'm gonna get sick? Then you bring the awareness back into the present again and start worrying about it. You keep repeating this process over and over again, and you build anxiety. So, the way to overcome stress and anxiety is to control where your awareness goes. Every time your awareness goes into the future or into the past in an uncontrolled way, bring it back to the present again, and just do this exercise. Be mindful of this throughout the entire day. Don't let your awareness go into the past or into the future in an uncontrolled way. The scientist says there are 2 minds operating at the same time, conscious mind and the subconscious mind. I ask, what's the difference? The conscious mind is where you are as a spirit, entity, or unique identity perceiving the world. The subconscious mind, on the other hand, is not a creative mind. It consists of habits and learned experiences that become automatic. The subconscious mind doesn't think or create, it simply plays out behaviors based on established beliefs. If beliefs are subconscious states of being, and you're stringing beliefs together, most people are viewing their lives through the lens of the past unconsciously. They are filling in reality from their past memories. My behavior is simply an expression of what's going on inside. Here's the paradox. I can think positively and see good things happening, but still get bad results. For instance, I might see myself earning more money, but end up going deeper into debt, or I might study the material but not achieve success. What happens then? I start to think there's something wrong with me. But there's nothing wrong with you. Your subconscious mind has been programmed. This is known as a paradigm. Your concept of yourself is everything you believe to be true about yourself and what's possible for you and others. It often means changing most of that because you've been raised to be ordinary, to believe in your limits and how far you can go. This has been imposed upon you by well-meaning parents, grandparents, culture, religion, business, and education. The systems you've been immersed in have told you, get here, this is not for you. If you want something you haven't got, you have to create space for it. In your own mind, you must let go of something. So, what should we let go of? We need to release the image we've got of ourselves for the one we want to build. There are both negative and positive aspects to this. The negative aspect is that if you keep obsessing about negative things, your mind will be automatically conditioned to bring them up more and more often, without your control. The positive aspect is that you can use the same skill set to apply positive thoughts in your life. By focusing on positive thinking, positive questions, and positive approaches, and giving them importance and duration over time, they get sealed in the brain. Then the brain starts to automatically think positively. If you want something to show up in your life, like becoming the kind of person you'd like to be, manifesting something new and powerful, you must first be able to imagine it. Your imagination can achieve whatever you ask, depending on the degree of your attention. What kind of attention do you place on your desires? If you interview successful people and ask them regularly what they think about, you'll find they are always thinking constructive, positive, creative thoughts that help them be more successful. On the other hand, if you interview people who aren't doing much with their lives and ask them what they think of, they are often thinking negative, hurtful, destructive, angry, or worried thoughts. The more they think about these negatives, the more they draw them into their lives. Be careful, your mind is very powerful. The opposite of self-confidence is where we limit ourselves, where we doubt ourselves, our knowledge, our skills, or our own abilities. The opposite of confidence might not just be doubt, but also fear. This fear can show up as shyness, turning down opportunities, avoiding risks, or being afraid of making mistakes. If we lack confidence, we won't take on challenges and learn from them. There's a quote I have on my desk: if failure is not an option, then neither is success. A positive mental attitude is a constructive response to everyday stresses. It is the belief that you have the ability to control your world and your life. Positive thinking is like a chicken and egg situation. If you're successful, you're positive. If you're positive, you're successful. It doesn't matter which comes first. What we know is that positive thinkers accomplish far more than those with negative attitudes. Positive thinking equates to mental health, while negative thinking equates to mental illness. At the very top of the mental health spectrum are the happiest people with high self-esteem who are positive and outgoing. At the very bottom are the most negative and pessimistic people who often need drugs and hospitalization. Your job is to develop a positive mental attitude, to become thoroughly positive and constructive towards yourself, your possibilities, the world around you, and the people in your life. When you marry a clear intention for your future with an elevated emotion, greater than the shock or betrayal of the past, the stronger the emotion, the more you pay attention to your imagination. This helps condition your brain and body for the future. The environment no longer dictates your feelings. Instead, you signal your genes with the emotion of your future. You're creating wealth or health by changing yourself and embodying it. So whatever impact, success, reaching goals, or growth you achieve, it's about how well you harness your physiological and psychological processes. It's whether your body and mind work for you or against you. This is a big difference. Evidence shows that pleasant experiences yield the best results. Joy should come first, then growth. If you are joyful constantly and have no fear of suffering because you understand that all human experience comes from within, you can create the kind of experience you want. Growth can then be unbridled. If you fear falling or suffering, you won't reach great heights. First of all, people often assume that anger happens to them. But as I mentioned earlier, perhaps not clearly enough, you are creating anger and misery from within yourself. Human experience, whether it's love, hate, anger, misery, or joy, happens from within us. The simple question is, should what happens within you happen your way or someone else's way? The world will never happen 100% your way because there are many stakeholders. Some things will happen your way, some others' way, and that's fine. However, what happens within you must happen your way. If what happens within you does not happen your way, this is the worst form of slavery. If someone decides what happens within you, it is a form of slavery. The worst kind is when someone else decides whether you are happy or unhappy. This is the liberation that humanity needs to work toward. Inner engineering is not a mechanical process. Engineering means that something is well engineered if it works the way you want. If this doesn't work the way you want, why expect other things to work the way you want? Why doubt this? When you live accidentally, anxiety is normal. Once, the late Dr. Maxwell Maltz, whom we called Uncle Max, visited my office for a chat and lunch. We discussed his favorite subject, how a person can come to grips with themselves, develop a healthy self-image, find freedom in the world. He outlined 4 important steps to form new habits and build a healthy self-image. Here are his 4 points. My fix. Forgive others with no strings attached. Clean the slate by forgiving every person against whom you might hold a grudge. This is for your own peace of mind. Holding on to hatred harms yourself, not others, and can lead to serious illness. Forgive yourself. See yourself with kind eyes. Forget all the mistakes, pain, and embarrassments from the past. Practice self-forgiveness by looking in the mirror and letting go of past grievances. It's not easy to forgive ourselves, but blame is destructive. Be kind to yourself. See yourself at your best. Start the day with confidence, not frustration. It's better to begin the day in a confident mood, even if bad days occur. Choose confidence if possible. Keep up with yourself. Don't worry about what others are doing or have done. Keep your own pace, which may be faster or slower than others. Don't feel guilty about advancing past your contemporaries. The person who holds themselves back to fit in with others is foolish. Live the life you want to live. Earn what you want and do what you want. We become what we think about most of the time, and that's the strangest secret. This is why thinking is so vital and why goals are important. We become what we imagine. Those who set goals achieve them. The trouble isn't in achieving goals, but in establishing them. We must love, help, and serve our goals, but never lose our individuality by becoming submerged in purposelessness. If we want to emulate someone, be selective in whose steps we follow. Remember, imagination is everything, and we can become what we imagine. If you find yourself down sometimes, recall Dean Briggs' quote, "Do your work, not just your work and no more, but a little more for the lavishing sake." That little more is worth all the rest. In an age where leisure time is emphasized, remember that most of our satisfactions and rewards come from our work, not our leisure. Don't forget the strangest secret. We become what we think about. Look at yourself. Then look at yourself. What am I going to do today to change what I see in this mirror? I'm trying to find more of myself. And the only way I can find more is to silence the world out as much as I can, because it's getting busier every day. It's getting faster. I put my phone away and I go dark. I go dark a lot, and it's because I have to find out I'm on a journey of life, and we all have a different journey. I like to take this 4-lane highway, the easy highway. We all love that 4-lane highway. We always step over the shovel. That shovel? I made my own path. But going through this path of life, this journey that you make yourself, that's incredibly difficult, and we're afraid. It's easier to accept the fact that I'm just not good enough. You have to go into those dark chambers that we often shut off. And you've got to open them up. Fail. And you're going to be in your head. You could be saying, I'm not good enough, and it's how you get through that. It's how you get through that on a daily basis when that thing is saying, man, I'm 43. I've done so much. You start to become civilized. The refrigerator gets full. You start making money, and you start thinking, I'm not getting cold anymore. I'm retired. At 40, people shouldn't be playing basketball or football. But at 43, I'm still putting in 100-mile weeks. Still doing thousands of pull-ups, thousands of push-ups, because I'm not allowing myself to become civilized. The worst thing that can happen to a man is to become civilized. You want to be among uncommon people, period. You start putting yourself in situations that suck, and you'll find yourself. I'm big on being with yourself. I want to be forever proud of who I was as a man and change who I used to be. The liar, the insecure guy, the guy who could whatever. I want to be proud if I die now. If I die at 80 or die at 90 or 100. I look at myself and say, proud of myself. I believe in patience. I'm a patient dude. I can watch a piece of grass grow for 20 years because I know that it's how you get somewhere in life. By having that monk-like mentality, being able to watch something grow very calmly, patiently, I can't go any faster. We do that to our brain. We put a governor on our brain. It's like we feel pain, discomfort, suffering, all those words that we hate to say because we have this happy, peaceful world we live in now. We stop. We slow down. And if you can get through these different barriers and gain 5%, 2%, 3%, that 40% becomes 60%, at 60% becomes 70%, 80%, and 90%, and then you'll hopefully one day near 100%. That dreamer mentality just will always fuel me. It was true. Man, see, what if I can be? What if I can be a SEAL man? I'm not. And I run 205 miles. Or if I can go, but just what if I can go in? And what if? How would that feel? You have to go into the dark chambers that we often shut off. And you've got to open them up. Be the hero of your own movie. If your life was a movie and it started now, forget about whatever financial disasters you've had. Personal failures, relationship failures. What would the hero of your life's movie do right now? Do that? Do those things? We define ourselves far too often by our past failures. We look at our past and say, well, that's me. That's not you. You are this person right now. You're the person who's learned from those failures. And you can choose to be the hero of your own movie right now. Write down your goals. Write down things you want to improve. Write down things you want to tolerate from yourself. Write down things you've done in the past you never want to see yourself do again. And go forth from here as the hero of your own movie. Build momentum. Build confidence and momentum with each good decision that you make from here on out. You can do it. Anyone can do it. I found peace on the opposite end of finding myself. And no one really finds themselves without going through trials, tribulations, suffering. Accountability, and accountability is suffering. Being accountable every day for doing right, for yourself, for the people next to you. It's miserable. It's hard. So, even the smallest details. I'm going to just make an addition to the thinking part. Mind, brain, body. The most primitive organisms on the planet are bacteria and cells like amoeba. An amoeba has all of the functions that you have. An amoeba has respiration, digestion, nervous system, reproduction system, and an amoeba even has an immune system. So single cells are like miniature people. In the world of an amoeba, the amoeba has to live in the world. It has to read what's going on. Is this a good place to go? Is there food here? Or is there something scary? So the amoeba doesn't bounce. It moves in the direction to give life. So it has to read the environment and adjust. The biology cells created us. We were made by the intelligence of cells. Every one of us is made out of about 50 trillion cells. A human body is a community of cells. The community of cells creates the nervous system. The nervous system is to read the big environment and then send the signals to the cells and tell them what to do. So the reality is your cells do not see the real environment we're living in. They see your interpretation, your thought about that environment. Is this a safe environment? Then 50 trillion cells say, good, I'm very happy. Am in a very safe environment. But if you have a picture of fear, then you're sending a signal to the cells to get ready for protection and get ready for fight or flight. So the function of the mind, brain, and body, on another level than what Seach has just said, is how do I coordinate the community of myself? Should my cells be healthy? Should they be afraid? Should they be afraid? Should they be in love? Why? Because their expression is our expression. So if I send them messages of fear and concern, then they are inside getting very nervous about what to do. Fear and love are opposite behaviors in a cell. Love opens, takes in the love, and brings it in and grows. Love is a nutrient. Fear shuts down, closes off, gets into protection, and I say, well, you can't be in love and fear at the same time because love is open and fear is closed. So our mind, brain, and body relationship, in addition to all the wonderful spiritual aspects that Seach is talking of, as a mechanical role. What should my cells be doing? They cannot see what's going on, but they're going to have to move the community from here to there, and so they need to organize their behavior to make my behavior. So all of a sudden, your thoughts are not just contained in your head, your thoughts are changed by the brain into information that then goes to 50 trillion cells and tells them what's going on. The problem in our world today is fear. Will I have enough? Will I have food? Will I have health care? Am I safe in my world? And I said this closes the cells down because fear means protect yourself. But you cannot live in a closed world. You have to take in nutrients. You have to take in love. You have to take in these things. So the biggest problem on the planet today, 90% of health issues, are not because there's anything physically wrong. It's because the signals that we are sending to the cells are not supporting growth, happiness, and health. And all of a sudden it says, oh my goodness. Then the mind and the brain are profoundly important because they determine everything below your head. What's going to happen when you live in the world of watching the news, being on the internet, reading a paper, and everyone wants to tell you, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid. That is what has caused the healthcare crisis on this planet. And when you can let go of those messages, then you can send messages of love, health, and harmony. And I know this in my own life because, as I said, once I started to recognize, why should I be afraid? I'm creative. If I'm going to create, then why would I create their story? I want to create my story. That means we have to have control over the mind. Control over the mind. Here you are. Yoga is control over your mind. Don't let your mind run away with other people's stories. You have to create your own. We have to let go of the belief that other people tell us this is a scary world, threatening world. It is only scary when we believe it is scary. You change your belief, you change your life. Meditation is the biggest gift that I can give anyone. And I would say more than anything, it is whatever reason for success I've had, because it allows one to go back to the 2 U's. I'll clarify what I mean. In your mind, there we think, what do you want? The reality is, when you look at the neuroscience and psychology, there are different parts of your brain that want different things. So in the simplest sense, there is the logical part of your brain that you're conscious of. It's called the conscious, and you think you're being logical, and you want to make those decisions. And then there's the subliminal, below the limbic system, part of the brain, which is the emotional, and it's not as conscious to you, but it has more of an influence on you than really the logical one. And so they're not aligned. So when you're experiencing that pain, or let's say the ego, right, there are two main things. You've got an ego barrier and a blind spot barrier. If you can get past your ego barrier and you get past your blind spot barrier, you can accomplish anything because you'll also know that you don't have to do everything yourself. You can take in from other people the different ways to approach things in the best possible way. And so the realization that we all are really struggling with ourselves and to think which is in control. Meditation helps to deal with the alignment of those two things.